Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're about ready to start. We're going to give the mic to Father Nestor.
Let's stand up and pray. Blessed is our God, always, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. Lord God Almighty, we lift up this time to you. We pray that you open our minds to be able to learn Greek better. We pray also that this be a time of fellowship that we can spend both with you and each other. And I pray, Lord, that this for us be an enjoyable class, one that we can look back on and say that it was fun to learn Greek. For we ask this in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Father. And I'm going to make it fun in just a minute, but a little housekeeping. If anybody here is new that hasn't signed up, if you're new, please give us your name and email if you want to get emails about the class from Denise and Tatiana. And then Father Gregory put some Bibles out, interlinear ones, Greek English, so you can look at them and see which one you might want to have. The bottom line is you need to be able to see the words and the accent marks and the diacritical marks, and you may need a magnifying glass or reading glasses for it. And I use it, and there's some big magnifying glasses here, so people are on it. But so don't be embarrassed about that. We all have to do that sometimes because they cram a lot of little print in. But you can look at the different versions, and I'm not sweating it. I just think get yourself a Bible so you can read along with us. And if your Bible is a little bit different versions, there are, and we'll go over that at some point. I think Father Gregory's going to talk about it. Not to worry, we'll talk about it when we get to it, because there's a reason for all of it. One thing we want to do is do some Greek culture. I'm just going to give you a little funny video to start you off with, if I can work this. Has anybody seen the Thanos Greek yogurt videos? Nobody? With Yaya? Okay. I think you'll like it. This is just a little short clip, but you have to know Yaya and his grandma, and as part of culture, it goes back to before ancient Greece, I think. Here's a little clip for you.
Hi, Lauren and Greg. What's up? We're getting today started with Thanos Greek yogurt.
Oh, wait.
Wonderful.
I got it, and yeah, you can't see it, so that's going to find it. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, looks like you got it. Okay.
Hi, Lauren and Greg. What's up? We're getting today started with Thanos Greek yogurt. Later, we're gonna ride bikes. Wonderful. Let's see what Yaya thinks.
Are you too married?
Are you two married?
No.
I'll make it bigger. Hang on, I'll do the sound for you. Couldn't do that. That's a Yaya for you, so. Okay. Let's do this again.
Hi, Lauren and Greg. What's up? We're getting the day started with Thanos Greek yogurt. Later, we're gonna ride bikes. Wonderful. Let's see what Yaya thinks.
Are you too married? No. But you live together. You are going to hell.
Some of you can relate to a family member like that. A little humor for you. Right? Okay. What I'm going to talk to you about tonight is a little bit about the Greek language and where it came from. Let's see if I can make this big now. Okay. So I gave this a little bit of this talk to my last class, and I think they thought I just made this stuff up. So where does it come from? And this year, This is the Dervenian papyrus. It's from Macedonia. That's where they found it. But it's the oldest Greek papyrus we have. And it's from the 5th century BC. And it's something from the philosopher Anaxagoras. Did I say that right? Anaxagoras?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that one, so the Greek is an Indo-European language, and the Indo-European languages started with the Yamna culture. What's that? Well, it was a culture north of the Caspian Sea, and not even eastern, western Asia. And these people came, originally they said from Africa, but how do we know about these people? From the archaeological evidence, we have lots of pottery that shows the spread of language throughout Europe. And we also have the linguistic tradition where the linguists can tell us where languages started and how they changed with time. And we also have genetic evidence to show that people migrated from this area throughout Western Europe into Greece and into India, which I'll show you. So that doesn't mean that there were no people where they went. This is where the language went. This is where the pottery and archaeological culture went. And this is where the genetic culture. I mean, if you look at the genetic evidence where people came from, you find that most of us have some kind of Eastern European, Central Asian, or Middle Eastern ancestry, because people came up through there and went to Western Europe. So with time, the culture spread, and they can time this. So into the Danube Valley, and into Anatolia, and even into what's now Russia. And then they spread to Western Europe, kept spreading, and look at this little green island, into Greece. We're speaking what we would call Proto-Greek. And then it continued to spread even into India and the Afghanistan area. And they ended up with people we could call Celts or Baltic people, or Medes, Persians, and Indo-Aryans in India that spoke Sanskrit. And a little quiz for extra credit. What 2 European languages are not Indo-European languages? Does anybody know? There's a hand.
Is it Basque and North Spain, northern Spain?
The Basque language is one. There's another.
Hungarian.
I don't know about that, but I know Finnish is the other one. So I don't know if I got Hungarian on the list. So we don't know where those came from exactly because we don't have enough evidence. At least that's what I read. So here's the Indo-European family, and it goes to Turkish and Tajik, Hindi, Armenian, Greek, the Baltic, Slavic languages, the Germanic languages, the Latin languages, Romanesque languages, and Celtic. And you can see English being over here got lots of influence from the Germanic Proto-Indo-European languages, 5000 BC, from French. The French are the ones who ranked it, but that's okay. And Celtic. The Greeks influenced other people, primarily the Romans and the Romanesque languages, and eventually to English. But I'll also show you how you guys know more Proto-Indo-European than you think, probably. And more, how many English words came from Greek? I've heard 150,000, but some people say there's only 50,000 words in English and 150,000 in Greek. And if you trace it through Indo-European, you can say maybe up to 80% of English words have a Greek root. Why am I even talking to you about this? Because people get discouraged sometimes learning a foreign language. I'm telling you, you already know Greek. And one of the reasons I like to give you the etymology, the origin of the word, so you can recognize it and you can see how the Greek and the English are related and help to remember it. I can see from your faces you probably don't believe that, but we'll work on it. So, Greek language started out as an Indo-European language, and then we had Proto-Greek about 2000 BC. And then we had Minoan. We don't know what the Minoans spoke. Some people think they spoke Greek, but they wrote a script called Linear A, which we haven't been able to fully decipher. But they could have had a version of Greek, but we're not sure. But then we have the Mycenaeans, and they did speak Greek. And we have their writing, Linear B. I'll show you a little bit of that. And when they deciphered it, they thought, this is going to be great. We'll be able to read Homer in the original script, and so on and so forth. Nope, it's all accounts of wine jars and accounting from the palaces and stuff like that. So they use the language to document material things. At least right now, that's all we have. And then we had ancient Greek, and then with Alexander the Great, Koine Greek, which we're going to learn. But all these, I'll throw you a little of this other stuff too. Then Middle Ages, we had what we call Byzantine Greek or Middle Age Greek, and then Modern Greek. So here's Michael Ventris, true scholar and genius who deciphered Linear B for us. So now we know what he was an English code breaker. We're not sure what he did. He might have been a spook. A spook is like CIA stuff, World War II. We're not sure, but he was very bright, and unfortunately was killed at an early age in a motorcycle accident. But he did decipher Linear B, and it was real. And here's some examples of it. So, the Minoans spoke former Greek, and we're going to have some right now. So, they have, the word for a king was anax in Greek, but the Minoan word has this, the gamma, if you want to say it, the word in English, like two gammas stuck on top of each other. So that's a W sound, so it's wanax. But then in Greek it became anax, and we still use that word. Anax is a real king. Basileus is kind of a minor king of lower grade than anax. You want the real king, you need the anax, not the Basileus. So, and then the queen is Anasa, and Minoan is Wanasa. So everybody say wanax. Good. Now you're speaking Mycenaean Greek. So Greek, even pre-Homer. So, and then we have Anasa in our liturgy. We speak, we have a liturgy called the Theotokos, the Montanasa, the queen of all. And I went to a church where they called it the Pantanassa, and please don't do that. Another thing to make my hair stand on fire. But also, what I want to tell you is that here's what the Minoan, Magawan, and Pylos palace, but if you go to Mycenae, there's a similar one. They have a central court, which was covered, and I don't know if you could give my little pointer, just not covered, and lavishly decorated, and they would gather around the fire. There's a chimney place with another roof over it, and tell stories and things. This is the oral tradition. It goes back hundreds of years, maybe 1,000 years or more, well, probably, because they got language, before written Greek. And sometimes this is poo-pooed, but we would not have the Iliad or the Odyssey if it weren't for the oral tradition. And a lot of the traditions of the church are oral, and not all written down. For example, the sign of the cross. And in Western thought, we think that if it isn't written down, there's no written record, it didn't happen. So Jesus didn't happen because we have hardly any written record other than the Gospels, which they dismiss. But Josephus and other people wrote about Jesus, but it's not very much, understandably. But some people think, well, it couldn't have happened, then somebody made it up. And that's not true. The oral tradition is a very strong tradition, and we just tend to neglect it in the modern age. And then there's some people called the Dorians. I don't know if they exist. Tatiana and we can talk about that. People argue about it, but it explains some of the language, and the ancient Greeks said they did. They came from northern area of Greece into Greece and spread the Dorian Greek into it about the time of the Bronze Age collapse. And there were the Hittite civilization, the Middle Eastern civilization, they all collapsed at the same time, and the Sea Peoples invaded Egypt, and there was, that began what we call what can be called the Dark Ages for Greece, but it really wasn't the Dark Age. Society just became more pastoral and agricultural, and we had fewer big palaces. So here's the Greek-speaking world in ancient Greece. All the dark orange areas are places where people spoke Greek. So it's all around the Black Sea and Mediterranean. And then we have the various areas of Greek accents. So we'll hear a little bit about this. Sometimes the words will be different, but the Dorians came in these brown areas. And then we have Arcadia, Cypriot, the greenish areas, Cyprus and Arcadia. And then Ionic, the islands are purple. And this little red place is Athenian Greek, Attic Greek. Well, that can't possibly be very important, but it turned out to be what we're all learning today. The ancestors of Unique Greek, because Alexander the Great spoke Attic Greek. And we still have some remnants of Dorian, Zirconian Greek. I don't know, have you been there, Tatiana? And so in modern Greece, there's still some people that speak it. There's a sign in Zirconian and modern Greek. A little bit different, but a remnant of Dorian Greek, even in the modern age. And then we have to think, we'll get Xenophon, student of Socrates, had a big march through Anatolia, down to Persia, in order to support Cyrus the Younger, who got killed. He was a student of Socrates, and he wrote a book called the Amabasis, the walk up of the expedition, if you want to say. And very intelligent general, a great general, had 10,000 men, and they were persecuted all the way back up to the Black Sea when they finally got ships and could get out of there. They were pursued by the Persians. But when they saw the sea, they said, Thalata, Thalata. That's Attic Greek for the sea, and the Ionian Greek was Thalassa. And that's what we use, that kind of term. So if you want to say the sea today, it's Thalassa. Maybe Tatiana will talk to us about that. But they said Thalata, so that's an example of the accents, the dialects that were different. And you can probably figure some of that out. Here's the trip. That was a very arduous trip and famous. And then the reason we're reading the Bible today is because of Alexander the Great. Alexander, and we even have in his lifetime, this bust was made. And then here's a picture copied from a painting that was made probably shortly after he died. But this is his so-called empire. Didn't last very long, but all the way to Afghanistan and India, and Greek was the language. We have even had Greek cities in what's now Western China or Eastern Afghanistan. This is one of them. And they found Greek wares, and it lasted about 300 years. So Greek was the language of the Alexandrian Empire. And I told my previous class that the church fathers regarded Alexander as one of the proto-fathers of Christianity, because if it were not for Alexander and Greek culture and the Greek language, Christianity could not have spread. And he also did a lot of other things which were unique. We're living in the modern age, we think that other people are like us, they were not. Alexander believed in the unity of all mankind. That was a novel thought. Nobody else talked about that to my knowledge. The church fathers thought this was God's providence, that he unified the known world as a great civilizing force and prepared the way for Christianity. So here's where Greek was spoken at the time the New Testament was written, so all around the Mediterranean. And if you wanted to trade or do business or get an education, you had to speak Greek. And in the Byzantine Empire, the whole Eastern Mediterranean was Greek. The Western was Latin primarily, but people still did speak Greek. There were archbishops of Canterbury who were Greeks, and Greek was used even at times in England. Jesus did not use the King James Version of the New Testament. If the King James Version was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. Okay, so you're living a little Indo-European history, here's 3 words that came into English. They're also in Greek from Indo-European. So, Scophos is the first one. What does anybody think Scophos is? If you know Greek, don't answer. If you have to guess, got any answers? No answers. Okay. How about the next one? Pure. Pure. It's easier than you think. And the last one we would say meats, but probably the ancients said moose. Okay. Scophos is a boat. We have that word in English, skiff. Pure is fire. We have the word pyre, pyrotechnic. And meese is a mouse. These words did not come into English directly from Greek. They came from Indo-European. From Indo-European to Greek, and from Indo-European into English, and they are similar. You're probably thinking, I mean, people are looking perplexed, befuddled, and I didn't make this up, I promise. Okay, that's all I have to say. Are there any questions about what I said? I just want you to feel that you already know Greek. We just can help you learn it. I'll give this to Tatiana.
Thank you, Tim. It's always good to realize that the language is not born in a vacuum, and that there's history. There are people who speak it, and there's geographical areas associated with it. So we get a better feel of what this Kimi language was doing and how important it was for the people of that time, and still is. All right, so last time we went through the alphabet, right? And I didn't really, you can move on, okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about breathing marks, punctuation, and some verbs, and go into sentences. Can you make it bigger?
Make it big, yeah.
So that they don't get distracted by the side. No. Get rid of that.
Oh, yeah. Right.
One more over this one. Put this.
Okay.
Breathing marks. These little dirty things, dirty word up and down. So, first of all, there was a smooth breathing mark, which indicated that there was no sound at the beginning of the word. These breathing marks appear only at the beginning of the word. So some words had a sound before the letter, some didn't. So this one didn't, and it looks to the left. So, agape. How about this? And agape means?
Love.
Isus. Isus. We have 2 E sounds. Isus. How about this? Isus. Okay. So these are just so that you get an idea of what they are, and then you're going to ignore them. Then there's the rough breathing mark, which had a sound. And it was initially the letter H, but just part of it, as you see here. And so when the Romans heard these Greek words and they transliterated them, they wrote the sound H, or the letter H, in front of them. So they pronounced that historia, and that gave us history. That's why the Greek word has a rough breathing here to indicate that H, but you don't see the H here either, but you see it in English through Latin, history. All right, can you read this one? Hippocrates. No? E-H-Y-P-O. Hypocrite. Y-P-O-C-R-I-T, and then the ending, huh? Hypocrite. All right, let's look at this one. Rough breathing. Helenas. Helenas. I'm pronouncing it in the Attic way now. But we get the word Hellenic, Hellenikos, Hellas, Greece, not Hellas. But that's why you have the H sound. And this, let's sound this. Rhythmos. Rhythmos. And that would be our word rhythm. Rhythm. There you go. And the last one, Romeos. Romeos, Roman. Romaikos, Roman, and Romi. Rome. Okay? Alright. That's the end of the rough breathing. So we're not going to sound it. But when I teach ancient Greek in college, I have to use the Erasmian pronunciation because that's what they do there. Alright, so I just wanted to show you, you know that in the Luke 23:38, they talk about the sign, about the cross, and that there was an inscription written in letters Ellenikis. Ellenikis meaning Greek, Romaikis, Roman, και Εβραϊκής. Hebrew, Hebraiki, if you transliterate it. And this was the Basileus τον Ιουδαίων, the king of the Jews. All right. So that's what the sign wrote in all these three languages. But if you see an Orthodox icon, you will see something different. You will see this abbreviated form. And can you imagine what this word says? It's a word in capital letters and abbreviated. O Basileus tis doxis. This is all the letters. O Basileus tis doxis, which is the King of Glory. So in the Orthodox icons, we don't write the King of the Jews. We go one step further and take that from the Psalm that talks about the King of Glory. So that's what it says up here. All right. The critical marks. The next one. Okay. So the apostrophe. In English, do you have the apostrophe? Yes, I'm sorry. You're going.
We don't scroll in. I think you can zoom in a little bit to the right. Yeah. Oh, maybe not that.
50.
Can I ask you a question, Lana? For the rough breathing mark and the breathing mark, do they both look like apostrophes, or like how do you tell them apart?
Well, the rough breathing looks to that side, and it's harder to write it. And the smooth breathing looks to the left, and it's easier to write because you're doing strokes like that. And because that's the most common one, they make that the smooth breathing. And the other one that goes against the flow is the rough breathing. All right.
You know how to work with? I can slow it down.
Yeah. time when you have two vowels that count as one sound, they produce one sound. So when that happens that you have those two vowels together, but you don't want to pronounce them as one sound, as a diphthong, then you use these to the diaresis. So this is Isaias. The alpha iota would have been E normally as a diphthong, but here it is Isaias. We have 4 syllables. Isaias instead of Isaias. Okay, 3 syllables. Right. And in English you say Isaiah. Isaiah. I don't know how many syllables Isaiah is in English.
Is that why, like at church, we say Alleluia instead of Alleluia in some of the hymns?
Hallelujah. Is that love?
Alleluia.
No, it's the alpha iota that is the M. The iota alpha is ER.
Alright, let's look at the next one. Yes. Correct. Okay. So, real quick, sometimes they would do things like you do in English, I'm, your, okay? And this is when you slur together 2 words, and in order to indicate that it's 2 words and not one, you use this apostrophe. Well, they did the same thing. Que, ego, and I, right? They would say it as one word, kago. Que-go, kago. Or que-kinos, kakinos. Because, you know, the vowels in order, they start being slurred, and so you have this little sign here, which is not a smooth breathing. It looks like a smooth breathing, but it's not, because it's not the beginning of the word. It's a sign and indicates that there are 2 words. Not very common, thank goodness, but just so that you know it exists. Let's go to the next one. Alright, accents. So, Greek has accents to show you what syllable to stress. There's the acute, which is the most common. The grunt, it's at the end of the word, and shows that kind of the word is taken with the next one. And the circumflex to indicate the musical notation. The circumflex is oh, you know, when they had the long vowels, and they would go oh, and that creates a circumflex. We don't reproduce these sounds anymore. We just stress the syllable whether we see a circumflex or a grab or an acute. And that's the end of the story. Okay. We're not punctuation. Alright, good. Let's get to the next one. So it's a modern invention. This is a medieval, one of the first books that was printed, right? The Gospel according to John in the beginning, and you see this is all English and so on. There you do have punctuation, but the ancient papyri, go to the next one, Jim, did not have punctuation. Just give me a second. So what you're going to see is commas in your text, which is the same as the English comma, periods, same as the period. Colon is a raised dot, and it's just like a period most of the time. And the question mark that looks like this. So the only different ones is the colon and the question mark. Okay? And you're going to get used to it because there are a lot of questions in the Bible. And so after a while, you're not going to be faced by this mark, and you'll realize, oh, it's a question. Okay? So the other punctuation marks are the same. So here is an ancient papyrus, Pavlos Apostolos Christou Iesou. Okay? It's one of the letters of Paul. And you don't see any periods, you don't see any commas, you don't see practically hardly any spaces between words, very little. So, but these are all in capital. Okay, so that's how it would have been. This is a papyrus, and a papyrus, so it's handwritten, still a copy, not the original, but a very early copy. So actually we have very early copies, even papyri copies of the New Testament text. Alright, so that's what that papyrus wrote. Let's read it together for practicing our letters. Make it bigger.
We'll try.
Zoom in a bit.
It doesn't work.
There's a little zoom at the top,
Oh,
on the right. It's right there.
That was.
If you know how to work,
It used to be here.
alright, so let's start. Pavlos, Pavlos, right? Up on this, Pavlos. Apostolos. Okay. Paul, the apostle. Isu Christu διαθελήματος Θεού. Θεού. Okay? Through the Thelema's will. Θεού is God. Okay. This of abundance. This agis. This usin en Εφέσο και πιστής εν Χριστώ Ιησού. Okay, Agios is the saints, to the saints who are in Ephesus, and the pistis, the faithful in Christ Jesus. All right, you ready? All right, Charis. What does it say here? Charis. Here's your name. Right. Up on this. Charis, imin και ειρήνη από Θεού Πατρός ημών και Κυρίου Ιησού Χριστού. All right. Charis means grace to you. This is to y'all. Grace, y'all. And Irene. Irene, and what is the peace? Peace from God, the Father, your Father, our Father, and this is the famous and Lord Jesus Christ. So this is his greeting. All right, we can go to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to start going into more of the structure of the language. Okay, a little bit of grammar. We're going to be talking about the verbs today. The verbs have tenses. They show time. Present, past, future. Okay? They show moods. Oh, verbs are very moody. They show commands. It's your favorite mood, right? Because you used to your son, Aiden, take the trash out. Remember? You say, please, it's still a command. Okay, and voices, active voice, passive voice, and there's a middle voice, but we're not talking about it right now. All right, let's go to the next one. So here are the tenses. Of course, we said there's general present, past, and future, with a few details in between. The present, I write and I'm writing, it's the same tense. Here you get a discount, okay? One word for two tenses in English. The imperfect, I was writing, very rare. We don't worry about that. This is the most important one. Future, I will write, and we need the future in the New Testament. It's used quite a bit. The aorist, in the past, everybody said something, right? And then Jesus said, and Jesus answered. So always in the aorist. aorist is the past tense, okay? The perfect tense, I have written. The perfect tense is quite common, just like it is in English. And the pluperfect, I had written, not common at all. Okay, so present, future, aorist, and perfect, these are going to be most important tenses, okay? So, if you go back, there's this passage I found that God looks at life differently from us because God is eternal. He sees the past, present, and the future all at the same time. God sees the end from the beginning, or rather, everything is in the present time in Him. And that's why in church we say, today the Virgin is giving birth to, Simon, today. It wasn't 2,000 years ago, it's today. Kind of getting into the perspective of God. Okay, the moods. Not all tenses have all the moods, but the present tense has all the moods. So we see the moods at the vertical, maybe you should imagine them, and the tense is vertical and the moods horizontally going. So indicative, when we make a statement, okay? So Jesus, when he was walking on the water of the lake, and the disciples were afraid, and he said, don't be afraid, ego in me, it is I. So, a statement. The subjunctive is something that shows potentiality. Ti un pisome, what should we do? We'll talk, this is just an overview that these things exist, okay? I'm not teaching them. The optative for wishes, requests, and curses. Yeah. We're not going to be talking about the optative much. The imperative, when we give a command, and it's a famous imperative here, all together, up on this. Aaron, Aaron, Stavroson, Avdon. This is the, no, away with him. When the Jews were yelling, crucify him, take him, away with him, crucify him. So all these three words are in imperative. And the infinitive, to be or to say, I want to say, he wanted to be, and so on, is kind of the absolute form of the verb. In, to be, laying, to say. And the participle, which is a verbal adjective, like you say, an educated person. Educated is an educated man, an educated woman, an educated dog. So that's the participle. Here you have two participles. Let's pronounce them. Apotes, evloimenos or erchomenos. So blessed is the one who comes. All right. Any questions? Kind of general questions right now. Okay. All right. We can go to the next one. And the voices, the active voice, when you do something actively, I'm walking, he's walking, okay? I'm kicking the chair, here's an action and there's energy going to the chair, and so we're going to be talking about objects. He is waking up, he wakes himself up, this is the middle voice. In English, you think of it as reflexive sometimes, and that helps. And the passive voice, he's woken up by the alarm. So these two, the active and the passive, are going to be the most important voices. And the middle voice is not going to be too important, but we'll deal with it at some point. All right, so in English you say, I have, you have, he, she, that has, we have, you have, they have. You need an extra word, an extra pronoun to indicate the person, right? Okay. In Greek, you don't need those extra words. You learn one word for the price of two. So, Why? Because the endings of the verbs indicate the person. So if you learn these endings, oi, si, omenete, usi, you know all these pronouns. But you can stick them to the stem of any verb, and you understand, if you know the stem, the beginning part, the root part, then you can tell exactly who is doing the deed. Okay? So, echo, I have. Goes a little bit backwards, huh? Echis, you singular, have. Echi. Now, who has? In English, you define it. Greek is the language of philosophy. You don't say everything. But obviously, you're going to have a person in the sentence, a subject, and that person, echi. All right, echomen. Up on this, echomen. We have. Echete, you have. And echusi, they have. So you see that the you singular and the you plural is a little bit longer than the singular. That's how you remember it as plural. All right. Stem, personal ending, verb. That's it. Questions? Okay. Your brain's Now, this is the important stuff. We start at this point. We start, okay? And as I said, you need to memorize these 6 endings. Can you do it? Let's say them all together. O, is, I. Omen, ete, usi. Again. O, is, I. Omen, ete, usi. And I want the third time. O, is, I. Omen, ete, usi. Alright, now you see that ni in a parenthesis. This is called the euphonic ni. Just if the next word starts with a vowel, you don't want to have too many vowels, so you break it with a nice nu there. Ni, I'm sorry. Okay? Alright, let's go to the next one. Let's do some real Greek. Alright. So here is a list of verbs. I don't know if you have bought your books already, but these are some of the verbs that on page 23 they have. So I put the meaning here. So algo, okay, algo, all together. Vlepo, I see. And why do I say I see? Because we have the O here. I don't say to see, I say I see. Okay, akuo. This is getting easier. Akuo. Acoustics. Huh? Here. Baptizo. Baptizo. We say baptized because this was pronounced as B by the Romans, and so got into English as a B, but it became soft down the road. Baptizo. All right. Pistevo. Pistevo. This is that ev. If you remember, pistevo, I believe. Pistevo. Sozo. Sozo. Dave. Sozo. Up on this. Sozo. We have but he's not here, but his name is Sozo. His baptismal name is Sozo, the one who saves. Yeah? And the last one, Grafo. 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 We have graphics. And a lot of other words. So, what I want you to do is, here's your cheat sheet. Okay? Your endings, your personal endings, right? And here are your verbs. So take turns around the table, going down. Next. Alright, let me hear you. Turn to the persons around here, practicing. So what you need to do is say a few of these words out loud so that your muscles will practice the sounds and be able to say them. It's like joining somebody else and already is coming to join you. Okay. whatever is after it is the personal pronoun. I, you, he, she, we, you, they. So when I have the little, the next one, yeah, I have it here without the translation, but this is on your handout. This OAC, Omen, and the Usin. And this means I, you singular, he, she, we, you plural, they. Okay? You see that on your handout? Do you see it on your handout? Right here. So this is I, you, she, we, you, they. Okay, okay. All right. So, this is a foreign language, right? It's Greek to you still. It's real Greek. So you do realize you need to put some work in memorizing vocabulary. So you do need to buy the book because we're going to be following this book. I will be giving handouts, but having the book to fall back onto is very important. And make flashcards. I'm going to, with this vocabulary, put the Greek on one side, the English on the other. Algo on one side, I live on the other. Okay, and go through them. And painlessly, you will learn them within a week.
So, some of you told me you can't see. I explained it. I finally fixed it, the PDF, but that'll help. Get the book, it's on page, what page did I tell you?
23.
18 for the enemies. So I think it'd be easier if you have the book, as soon as you have it, we can follow along or use a handout. But I know it's hard to see from the back, but you can move up front. But it's about as big as we can make it right here, so we'll try our best. But the book will help
Thank
you.
you. All right, now, the challenge I see is getting a little bit harder. Okay? What do I get here? I give you the verb, okay? I give you the meaning of the verb, and then I don't give you what? The personal pronoun, the person. Who is doing the leading? Where are you going to find this person? You're going to find the ending, is. You see the ending is here, which means you singular. So I is means you lead. So here's the chart that gives you the persons. If you remember, I, you, he, she, we, you, they, okay? Then you match it with these endings, okay? And then you find them here. All right, so talk to the people at your table about the meaning of these words. Give them a person. Who is doing the sing? We. Brilliant. Because the Omen is here. We, you, they. We. Okay? Right? Okay. Let's see. Question?
If you are not familiar with this, remember your Latin, Homa, Samat, Spanish, Tango, Tiene, Tiene. Some of the endings are almost the same, but you have this little chart. Remember this because this is singular, plural. First person, second person, third person. When I taught this before, people thought I just made that up too, and that was just, but the languages, we're going to use this over and over again. So you see a little chart, it won't say 1, 2, 3. That would be first, second, third person, the singular, plural all the time. So that's what it means. So that's like Spanish, like French, like Latin. Anything but English.
Well, yeah, in English you only have the S, do, I do, you do, he does. We do, you do, they do. So there are no personal endings there because you have the personal pronouns. And you don't want to repeat things.
Another way to do it, just get used to saying the verb over and over again, like left over, left east, left limb, left leg, left Ago, I, I'll go in, I'll take, I'll proceed.
Ayis means Yuli. Flepomen. We see. Akuete. Y'all here. Baptizusi. They baptize. Pistevi. He or she. Sozete. You plural, y'all say. And grafusi. They cry. Brilliant, huh? Your brain is hurting. It's the Greek team, okay? They are for all the other verbs, like 95% of the verbs follow those endings, which is good to know, right? But the verb to be has these 6 forms that are used constantly, and we just need to learn them, right? Yeah. Do you guys want to say?
Languages, the commonest words are sometimes irregular. It's true in Spanish, Latin, and Greek. So the verb to be is probably the commonest verb used. And for some reason, people change it. Grammarians don't make the language. They just try to explain what happened. People speaking make it, and And so somehow you can blame your ancestors if you don't like this verb, but just memorize it. There are not too many, like Tatiana says, but that's why it happens. So take courage. All the verbs are not like this.
All right, so let's sound it. Let's sound it all together. In me, in me, in me. Okay. I am in me. You are. You are. Esteem. 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 So the ni is the euphonic ni that appears and disappears. So esti is the form, but we say esteem. Okay? So, in me, esteem. Up on this. In me, esteem. I am, you are, he, she, it is. Okay? Let's go to the plural. The most common is the me and the esteem, and they sing. Okay? And when Jesus talks to his disciples, he uses these forms. But the most common are these three ones. Alright, so Esmen, Este, Isin. Esmen, Este, Isin. Isin. They are. Okay? So let's say the whole thing together. Up in me, esteem, esmen, este, isin. Okay? Questions? Este clear? Yes. Este clear? No? How are you going to say, we are clear? It's not clear. Do you think they are clear? Yeah? Say they are. Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it clear? Yeah. Clear. And you? Say I am. Imi. Yes, Imi. Esti clear. Esti clear.
So you Latin and Spanish scholars will recognize some similarities in the language as verb to be. It's not the same, but it's very similar. That part is very good.
Yeah, suma says sumus est sum. Alright, so the one card you're going to make is with the 6 endings, right? Personal endings. The other flashcard needs to have the me as a unit. Me, est, esmen, este, sit. So that your brain will have a visual of all these 6 forms, and then you will be reading them and then trying to say them without looking. It's a process, but you will be seeing them in the text, and that will make it familiar. Yeah? We'll do some gymnastics of the brain? Okay. Alright, so, do you see this bleb in here? Bleb part? What does bleb mean? The bleb part is the stem, the C, and the usin is the ending. Usin means they, yeah, they see. They see. Now who are these they? The passage says tifli. Tifli means blind. So the blind see. Let's read it together. Tifli anablepusi. Anablepusi. The ana means up. They see up. They look up. They see. They're able to open their eyes. Ana is the up. Yeah, that's why we have an extra one for emphasis. Tifli anablepusin. So they see. Que? What does que mean? And coffee, death, akusin. Akusin. Why do we have two U's there? Because one is of the acoustic, akuo, to hear, and the other is they, the usin. Akuusin. So, que coffee akuusin. Apa this? Que coffee akuusin.
We are pronouncing the oo's
separately. Akuusin. They would say quickly, akuusin, but twice. Absolutely. You cannot drop one of them, because if you drop the first U, you mess up the stem and you don't know what the verb says. If you drop the second U, you mess up the personal pronoun and you don't know who is doing the listening. So they have to be there. Alright, let's look at the next one. Ti baptizes. Why is you baptize? Why do you baptize? This E is not the you, you are, it is the if. And you see, doesn't have the circumflex on top. That's the difference. The E has a circumflex, the you are. So why do you baptize if C means you, singular, uk, not. E, here's our E. What does this E mean? You are singular, you are singular. If you are not, o Christos, Christ. Okay, so what's the difference between this E and this E? The circumflex. It makes this a verb, the you are verb, and makes this a conjunction. If. Don't worry too much about it. Right now we're talking about the verbs, okay? This is why. If you understand these three things in these three sentences, you're good. Any questions here? Alright, let's look at the next one. Imas nin sozi to baptisma. So, to baptisma, baptism, this is not a verb now, it's not a verb, it's a noun. Baptism, sozi, saves. Nin means now, imas, yo. So, the baptism saves, now, yo. So here you get an inkling of the fact that the Greek words don't have a place in the sentence. Like in English you have subject, verb, object. If you mess this order, you're like, oh, what's happening? In Greek, you put the subject at the end, the baptism saves you. But it really says, you all now saves the baptism. But when you translate, you have to take these words and put them in the English order. Like a puzzle. You see the words there, and then by using your grammatical knowledge of the endings of the verbs and the nouns that we will learn, you put the puzzle together correctly so that it gives you the correct picture. If you just translate the words as they come, you'll get gobbledygook and you'll say, those Greeks were crazy. No. Your brain needs to catch up. Alright? So that's why it's a new reality for the brain. for the English brain, because you're used to the order, the position of words in a sentence. But we're going to learn how this works. There are rules, but well, they're coming. Okay, the next one. Graphi, comma, not the commas are important. Ο βασιλεύς των Ιουδαίων. Graphi. Writing. Graphi. He, she, or it. He, she, or it. He writes, or it writes, comma, what does it write? This. Βασιλεύς, the king, Iudeon, of the Jews. Judea, okay? This is Judeans in here, Judeans, right? But in Greek it's Iudeon. So it writes, it refers to the sign. Okay. Πιστεύεις, what is this here? Question mark. The question mark. Πιστεύεις? Do you believe? Πιστεύω, Kyrie. I believe. Lord, sir, Lord, yeah, master, yeah. Do you believe? So, πιστεύεις? Πιστεύω. See how the endings change and transform the meaning of the verb. Πιστεύεις, πιστεύω, Κύριε. Right. Κύριε, κόμμα, πού υπάγεις? Alright. Υπάγεις, is. You go. What is this? Question mark. Kyrie, meaning Lord, where are you going? Alright, where's the R, the English? Where are you going? Where's the R? No, you don't have the verb are to be in here. Where's the R? The tense. Yes. So, this can mean where do you go? Where do you go for coffee every day? Πού υπάρχεις? Or where are you going right now? Okay, remember? You get a discount. You just have to interpret it. Πού υπάγεις? Remember the algo verb? Algo, lead. Υπάγω, lead the way. So, υπάγεις has the algo verb in there. Question? Alright, now, you don't have to memorize all these things, but just the verbs that are on page 23 in the book. The rest are just to make the sentence and so that you will see how you can use your verbs in a sentence. Now let's look at the last. Ου βλέπετε ταύτα πάντα. Βλέπετε, Ου is the not. Ου. So it's ου βλέπετε. What is this?
Question mark.
Question mark. Okay, so it's a question, forming question.
Where?
There's no where. Ου it means not. We're scared technology. So ου βλέπετε, don't you see? Don't you see? It's the tense, okay? The tense. Don't you see? Ταύτα πάντα. Πάντα, άπαντες, πάντα, all, ταύτα, all these things.
I don't know if anyone picks this up, but when Tatiana said, this word, πιστεύεις, that's how you would say it, this little question mark right there. But she said, πιστεύεις, that's the way you ask a question in Greek. So Greek people would know that. She's still accenting it, right? But she's asking a question. So it's kind of an accent, a little change in tone. I don't know how to quite explain it.
Yeah, right. So πιστεύεις is the statement. You believe. Πιστεύεις is the question. So this is how you express when you speak, the oral part of it. But when you see it written,
there's a question mark.
You just see the question mark and then you ask, you make the intonation in your English, the way you ask question in your English language, okay?
Well, I think we'll probably cover that later, but I just didn't want anyone to be confused. That, well, she made a mistake. No, she didn't. She's asking a question.
Thank you. I don't even notice. All right, I just the last one. Here you have practice for this one, but all right. So this is your prescription, right? You're giving her a prescription. This is 3 times daily. Take with a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. Okay. Okay. Memorize the verbal endings. Those 6 endings. O, si, omen, us. Make flashcards with the vocabulary on the handout. You have a handout. Just the words that are in the vertical, not that they help at the bottom. Okay? And put the Greek word on one side and the English on the other, and review them. Just review them. Don't push your brain too much. Read the word and look at the back what they mean, but before you know it, you will know what these verbs mean. Especially if you take it with a piece of cake 3 times a day.
Next week, if you have your books, bring them. That way we can refer to a section or a page number and help you out if you can't see something. I don't know if that's the others can use it, but at least you have some reference material.
Thank you for coming tonight. We'll see you next week.